So this morning we're going to do the same recitations that we did yesterday, because those are really advised before beginning a meditation session. So that we take refuge in the Buddha and we set our motivation. It's very important that we make sure our motivation is going in the right direction. That we're not just doing our practice for fun and games, so that we can get a good reputation for being a holy person, something like this, but that we're really doing it for the long-term benefit of self and others. And then, of course, creating merit and doing some purification with the 7-limb prayer. The mandala is we're imagining offering the whole universe to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Usually we offer the whole universe to our own self-centeredness, so this is a big change. And then making requests to the lineage, beginning with the Buddha, going on to, down to our own spiritual mentors for their inspiration, and then reciting the Buddha's mantra. So when we do this practice, we, visualize the Buddha in front, surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So we're not just addressing these recitations to kind of empty space or nowhere or something like that. And then we go right into the meditation. So, again, if you're using the breath as your object of meditation, focus here your upper lip and your nostrils. And just be aware of the sensation of the breath as it goes in and out. And at the same time, you can just watch the changing nature of the breath. Yeah, so it's not just, sensation, but, watch how the breath changes and become aware of your different breathing patterns according to your different moods and emotions. That's very interesting to do, because you can really learn a lot about yourself when you tune into how you're breathing. It lets you know really what you're feeling inside very often. And then sometimes, too, when you need to calm yourself down by changing, consciously changing your breathing pattern, you can help change your mental state. Here, when we're doing the meditation, we're not consciously changing our breath or forcing our breath in any way. We're just letting it be what it is. And it may change quite naturally in the course of a meditation session. I think, some of the windows are open. Okay. Gets hot in here. Then, for those of you using the Buddha as the object of meditation, in the break time, look at the Buddha, look at the card of the Buddha, look at different pictures of the Buddha, and and then when you begin your session, you lower your eyes and you recreate that mental image of the Buddha in the space in front of you. And so at the beginning of the session, it's very good to give yourself instructions about what you're going to do, and just, like you're leading yourself, and say, I'm going to visualize the Buddha. The image is made of golden light, so I'm not visualizing a statue or a painting, but thinking of a real living being, and made of light, so not hard, and thinking of the Buddha's very compassionate eyes, his different features going over what they look like, and the long ears, the eyes, everything like that. Looking at the robes, his sitting position, going through the whole thing. And after you've gone through the whole thing, then focusing your mind on, the image that you have of the Buddha. Okay, and so that's mindfulness that you've used to focus on the image of the Buddha. And like I said before, it's not going to be like seeing with your eyes. Yeah, but even your exquisite visualization of pizza is different than seeing pizza with your eyes, isn't it? Yeah. So don't have these kind of expectations. Yeah. And so whatever image you get, stay with that. That's good enough. Yeah. If all you get is some kind of, golden blob, that's fine. If some part of the Buddha's body appears more vividly to you, you can focus specifically on that part. And then if that starts to fade a little bit, then go back to the general body. If the general body starts to fade, then again go through the details of the body and renew your visualization. Okay? And then like I was saying yesterday, we went through 2 of the 5 hindrances yesterday. So if you're finding that you're getting distracted from either the breath or the Buddha by having a lot of sensual desire, so your mind is going to objects of the senses, things you like, things you want. Okay, and don't think of this just as, possessions and material things. A lot of us like to think we're not materialistic, even though we have houses full of stuff. But never mind. Don't think of essential desires as just material things. It's also to praise, good reputation, smiling faces, all these kinds of things, appreciation, respect, all these things, because all these things eventually come back to what we're perceiving by our senses, isn't it? Like we say, I want respect. Well, how do we know we're being respected, or how do we know we're being appreciated? Well, we're seeing certain things, or we're hearing certain things. Okay, and we label those as, that means they respect me, or that means they appreciate me. Whether it really does or not, we don't know, but we believe that. Okay, so we're attached to those kinds of things. Okay. If you find yourself wandering towards a lot of negative thoughts and hurt feelings and anger and bitterness and revenge and these kinds of negative feelings, then again you have to stop and recognize that. In both cases, if you can easily put your mind back on the object of meditation and renew your mindfulness, do that. But if you keep getting distracted again and again because the affliction is so strong, then in the case of desire or attachment, if that's coming up, then do some meditation on impermanence and death, and think about your own mortality and ask yourself, are these things really important? Considering I'm going to die, considering I'm impermanent and they're impermanent, are these things really so important? Are they really going to be of lasting benefit to me? Can I take them with me? If we find that our mind's going, with a lot of anger and resentment and jealousy and so on, then stop and, like I was saying yesterday, look and see underneath if there's some hurt and if there's some fear, and acknowledge those if there is. And then, after that, then try and do some of the meditation on loving kindness. Yeah? Wishing yourself well, wishing that other person well. Okay? And then we'll discuss the other hindrances later on this session. But that was just to remind you a little bit of the instructions. Okay? So we'll do the prayers there on page what?
28.
28. Okay. So remember to visualize the Buddha surrounded by the other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the space in front of you. And think that you're surrounded by other living beings, because we are, and that we're leading them in doing this chanting. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my negative reductions included since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the Great Awakening. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, four lands, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments, I offer these without any sense of loss. Please accept them with pleasure and inspire me and others to be free from the three poisonous attitudes. Idam Guru Ratnamandalakam Niryatayami. Glorious and precious root Guru, sit upon the lotus and moon seat on my crown, guiding me with your great kindness. Bestow upon me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind. Glory to whom the best scriptures are seen, supreme doors for the fortunate who would cross over to spiritual freedom, illuminators whose wise means vibrate with compassion, to the entire line of spiritual mentors I make request. Tayata Mani Mani Mahamaniya Soha. Tayata Mani Mani Mahamaniya Soha. Tayata Mani Mani Mahamaniya Soha. Tayata Muni Muni 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 Mahamaniya Soha. Begin your meditation. Okay, so the third of the 5 hindrances is dullness and drowsiness, or drowsiness and dullness. Okay, maybe you had a little bit of that just now. Yeah. So, the drowsiness is drowsiness. It's not full sleep. I mean, full sleep is you're really out, but drowsiness is you're on your way there. Okay. So you're kind of nodding and like this. Yeah. And we often say, oh, it's because I didn't get enough sleep last night, so I better go sleep more. No. Yeah, because you'll notice that if you are thinking about something you like, your mind is wide awake. Yeah, you might be drowsy one moment, but the moment you think of Buddha Boy, you are awake. Okay? The moment you think of, the boat or the vacation house or, whatever it is that you want, you're wide awake. And as long as, either desire or ill will is in the mind, we're not drowsy at all. Yeah? Do you ever get drowsy when you're in the middle of plotting your revenge for somebody who hurt you? Oh, not drowsy then. Okay, so it's not a matter of needing more sleep, unless, of course, we just got a few hours the night before. But it's usually, this is just another way that obscuration manifests in the mind, is by drowsiness. Okay? So, the point is that self-centered mind and self-grasping ignorance, these mind states are not going to go away without putting up a good stand. They've been running the show since beginningless time. They're not going to roll over and say, I surrender. They're going to say, this is my territory. Yeah, wisdom and concentration, Dharma practice, you get out of here. I'm running the show. And since we're very familiar with them, it's very easy to follow along with them. Okay? So one of these precise things is drowsiness. Yeah? So the drowsiness is quite gross. Yeah, it's you're nodding and kind of all these other images, or how when you start to dream, you start to get other images in your mind. They start going through and okay. So some antidotes to that are do prostrations. You're gonna I wanted her to say go sleep. She's saying do prostrations. Yeah, because prostrations, first of all, energize your body, and second of all, purify the karma that causes that kind of drowsiness. Yeah, so prostrations are very good to do those, in the break time, in between meditation sessions. Then it really helps when you actually sit down. Or do some brisk walking, like we did yesterday afternoon. And get your body going. Go up on the hill, or even from here, look long distances. Yeah, so that you really have a big perspective. Look at the nighttime sky and all those stars that look so little, and think of how long it would take to get there, because those stars are actually really huge. Yeah. And think of how many beings are there throughout infinite space. Yeah? You can see the Milky Way very, very nicely here. How many beings are out there? Wow. This expands your mind. Okay? Put cold water on your face. Yeah. And before you come in to sit down, put some cold water all over your head. Okay? Check your meditation position. Make sure you're sitting up straight. Yeah. Make sure that your head's level. If your head starts going down, it's going to keep going down. Yeah, so make sure your head's level. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a number of people. I notice even at the beginning of session, even after I say sit up straight, there's people like this. Maybe they think that's sitting up straight. That's maybe part of our American computer, we sit up straight is this. Sit up straight is this. Okay? So check all these things. Also see if your eyes are a little bit open. Because if your eyes are open, some light's coming in. You can visualize fine with your eyes open because you're not really looking at anything. Don't pay attention to what that is. They say that your eyes should be directed towards the tip of your nose, but that might be uncomfortable, so just put them down, right in front of you by your legs. Okay? So do those kinds of things, and that can be very, very helpful, so that you're not so drowsy. Dullness is a little bit lighter than drowsiness. Yeah, you're not falling asleep with dullness. The third one was drowsiness and dullness. So you're not falling asleep, but your mind is definitely dull. Yeah, in other words, the image of the Buddha is kind of, it's flat, or the way you're paying attention to the sensation on your upper lip or nostrils is kind of, unenthusiastic. Okay, so the mind's kind of dull. So it can be very helpful to remember your motivation. Yeah. Remember your precious human life. Remember the qualities of the three jewels. In other words, think about things that are going to uplift your mind. Virtuous things that are going to uplift your mind. Okay? Because when you think about things like that, then your mind gets interested. You remember your great fortune to have this opportunity to study and practice the Dharma. Okay? And then if you're doing the visualization, really make the colors very bright. Yeah, really emphasize the aspect of the visualization being made of light and make those colors very, very bright. And that uplifts the mind. If it's still not working, okay, then you can, for a few minutes, do a specific kind of breathing meditation where you imagine as you're exhaling, that you're exhaling your dull mind in the form of smoke or pollution that leaves your body and just dissipates. And when you inhale, think that you are inhaling, the air is actually very brilliant light. Okay? So you can think of the light of, sunlight or, some kind of beautiful, colored light or rainbow light or clear light or white light or whatever it is. And you just do the thing of expelling the dullness in the form of smoke that dissipates, inhaling, clean, fresh air. That is the nature of light, and then thinking that light completely fills your whole body and mind. Okay, when you imagine your body-mind being filled with bright light, then the dullness dissipates. Okay, so that's the third one. The fourth one is restlessness and remorse. or sometimes they say, restlessness and worry, something like that, okay? So what it means, restlessness is the body and mind being restless, not being calm, not being balanced, being, And we know sometimes we have very restless energy, especially when you begin to meditate. You're not used to sitting still. The body is very, very restless because the mind is restless, So, there's a number of things. I mean, we have to really look at our lifestyle and see the restlessness in our lifestyle. I would, recommend just on a very general way, get some exercise. If you get some exercise, that E word, exercise, then it helps balance your physical energy, and you're able to get rid of some of that restless physical energy. Or do yoga, or some stretching, or tai chi, or qigong. Yeah, do something physical. Yeah, all you do they have Couch Potatoes Anonymous? I think they need one, Yeah, people who are addicted to the couch. Couch Potatoes Anonymous. You can't get off your couch, do anything. But here you have to get off your couch. Yeah. Detach yourself from the sticky keys of the computer. Yeah. And go outdoors and move. Okay. I mean, the gym is good too, but I think especially outdoors is very, very good for you. Yeah, it's also cheaper. Yeah.
I try to go for a walk every day. And as I'm doing that, going around the neighborhood in northeast Portland, always send out to all the houses there, all healing energies of the Buddha, and send out prayers and thoughts for everyone.
Right.
They receive just what they need from whatever channel they're able to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So make it a Dharma practice as you're
Right.
around doing all this, and it's really very uplifting.
Right. Exactly. Do that. Do something good with your mind while you're, getting some physical exercise as well. I would say also watch what you eat. Yeah. And this can also relate to the dullness, too. If you're eating a lot of heavy food, if you're eating a lot of meat and potatoes, junk food, your body's going to get heavy, and you'll have a lot of more dullness. If you're eating a lot of sugar and also junk food, your body's going to go more towards restlessness. So watch your diet too. Don't eat too much, but also don't eat too little. Mm-hmm. When your appetite what?
My appetite has a tendency sometimes to disappear.
Uh-huh.
For a couple of days, 3 days without eating. Is that creating restlessness in myself?
It might be, yeah. Because our body needs nourishment, doesn't it?
I thought I would assume it caused drowsiness.
It's hard to say. Everybody's body is really different. It could make you more restless. It could make you, because some people, when they don't eat, they get very up. Yeah. Kind of, it depends on your body. If you have a lot of wind energy, this is in Tibetan medicine, then, and you're predisposed to wind energy, then you get restless and jittery and, your body is predisposed that way. If you have other, kind of energy in your body more, then it's predisposed towards, drowsiness and dullness. Okay, so I think it's important to try and keep our health good and keep our body balanced. Yeah, and it's just good all the way around. Okay, so watch your diet, and And then also at the beginning of your practice, don't expect yourself to be able to sit perfectly still, because there is a lot of just restless physical energy. As you meditate more, as you do more yoga or Tai Chi or whatever, that energy is going to slowly go away. Sometimes the pain we experience is basically restless energy. Yeah, it's blocked energy. It's not that a muscle is stretched or something is wrong in our body. It's just more a manifestation of this restless energy. Because I remember when I did my first retreat, we were sitting, long hours, and my right knee just was killing me, and I couldn't sit more than 10 minutes without squirming. And then it really dawned on me, this really isn't a problem with my right knee. The problem is my restless energy. Yeah, because once my restless energy calmed down, my right knee didn't bother me anymore. Okay. Also, we have a restless mind, and that's really encouraged in our current culture. And I think the way the media is working and our basic culture is we are encouraging this restlessness. Because I notice, I don't watch television, except, usually when I'm on a long overseas flight, I'll watch the pictures. I won't necessarily put on the headphones. The movies are usually too boring. But once in a while, I'll just look at the pictures. And I'll notice that I can't follow what's happening as well as I could follow things when I was younger. And I think it's because, not just my faculties changing, but because nowadays they change the scenes more rapidly than they did years ago. Yeah, and you can see, everything's shooting, glimpse, this, that, always something new. And I find I just get kind of, whoa, it really has quite an adverse effect on me. I feel quite like too much sense stimulation. But then I see children growing up with this kind of thing, and adults too, and everything on your screen changing so quickly. Yeah, that we're used to that. It doesn't even stay there a second, but it's changing again. And it's flashing and moving and all sorts of things. So when you're trying to concentrate and you're keeping one image, the same image, that's not moving. Yeah. And you're trying to develop serenity on that. It's called serenity for a reason, because the mind is serene and tranquil. Yeah, that is totally the opposite of how we are conditioned in our society, which is look at this, look at that, boom, 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 one thing after another, multitask. Yeah? Yeah?
I just went on a 14-day vacation, camping vacation, and was there some credit at my job. I'm very multi-credit, and I came back to work and realized that I just don't multitask. I multitask because there's about 4 or 5 different types of communication coming in at any single time while I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's very brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, we really need to be on the lookout for this kind of thing. Consider this when you take a job, Consider what they're asking you to do and the effect that it's having on you. Really look at your relationship to the media. Do you read all the billboards when you're driving on the highway? It's sometimes hard not to. There they are. And now they're moving. Yeah? Yeah? So it's easier to go there. Look how much, what do you do on the internet? And are you clicking to different things? Yeah, when you're on the internet and there's ads and they're moving and flashing, do you just click the ads just out of curiosity? Like what are they doing? Oh, you all say no. Check up. Yeah, check up. And just, look, really be careful how much TV you watch and going to the movies. Now, in other words, how much are you training your mind and your brain in this thing of constantly changing stimuli? Because the more you're trained in that, the harder it's going to be to sit and focus on one unchanging object. Maybe hold things for right now, okay? So that could be a part of the restlessness. Now, when you're reading a magazine, do you read the ads? That's what they're there for. If you don't read them, why are they putting them there? Yeah. It's hard not to read them sometimes. So check up what magazines you're reading and what you do with the ads. Now, I travel a lot, and I see people, when they sit down, they'll pull out the magazine, the in-flight shopping, and just, go like this, one object after another, one page after another, looking at this. People are so attached to their iPads and iPods, so attached. We've had the experience here of, because, we collect the phones and your iPods and so on when you come so that you won't be distracted. And people looking at us with horrified, just totally horrified when Zopa, asked them to separate from their iPhone, It's like, but, yeah. And so how much do we just, how often do you check your iPhone to see if there's some new message? Yeah. And how often do you have a thought and then you feel you have to text somebody your thought? How often do you update your Facebook page? Letting people know what you had for breakfast, because that's extremely important. And reading all your friends' Facebook pages so not only what they ate for breakfast, but also who they like that day and who they hate that day. Yeah. And I really noticed that with people coming here, so addicted to these things. So addicted. Yeah. And I mean addicted, actually. Yeah. It's, because we'll have a course and maybe we just had a 2.5-week course. So difficult for people not to make phone calls. Yeah. Oh, I need my phone because it has an alarm in it. Yeah. We know. There's also alarm clocks in the cabin. Okay. But we're constantly checking to see if we've gotten new text message, new emails. Yeah. So really addicted to these things. So no wonder that our mind is so restless. Yeah. And so here I think we really need to ask ourselves, is it that important that I know all these tiny details about what's going on with all my friends, about what's happening with the stock market, about this, that, and the other thing? Do I really need to know that? Yeah. Can I turn this stuff off? Yeah. So really look at your relationship with the media and technology, because it's going to impact how you meditate. Okay, so this constant changing stimuli is going to make the mind very restless. We want something new and exciting all the time. We're not content to sit and, visualize the Buddha. That's just not interesting, exciting enough. Or even you're doing Lam Rim meditation where you're contemplating a topic that the Buddha taught. It's like, well, this doesn't have flashing lights, I'm meditating on precious human life, but it doesn't make me nearly as exciting as, watching the rise of the dark night. Was it the fall of the dark night? I don't know what this night did. Oh. Okay. But, I don't know if he was a knight or a pawn or, or a bishop or, no. What are you doing? So, just the mind that's so excited. Look at your mind that is excited by violence on the screen. Yeah? Why do you watch movies with violence? Why do you watch movies with sex? Look at what it does to your body and mind when you're watching those things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about it. I spent 11 weeks in the wilderness this summer, completely isolated from any communication, any technology, anything whatsoever. And coming back into the modern lifestyle was really eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's really hard, just even watching TV or checking my email. It caused so much, I felt depressed.
Yeah.
So I could see my mind changing.
Yep. So disengage from that stuff. Yeah. Maybe if people could hold things for a few minutes. Okay, we'll have a discussion in a few minutes. But disengage from that stuff. Don't feel obliged to watch it and use it. And I'm one of the few people on this planet who does not have a cell phone, and I do not want a cell phone because I don't want to be available 24/7. And I know that the world will exist very well without me being available 24/7. The world is not going to collapse because I don't have an iPhone. Yeah. I really don't think that's going to happen. Okay? So try and, really look very clearly at your relationship to the media. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the restless. Then the regret part. Sometimes it's translated regret, sometimes remorse, sometimes worry. What it means is this kind of feeling inside that I should have done something I didn't do, or I shouldn't have done something I did. Okay, so it's this internal kind of anxiety, basically. Like, oh, I should have done that, and then that would have led to this and this, and I should have this and this and this, or I shouldn't have done this and this and this and this and this. All this kind of internal rumination that we do, worrying about something, getting anxious about something, making up stories in our mind about what we should have done, what we shouldn't have done, what might happen, what might not happen. Okay? So lots of just spinning and rumination. And I think, what I find interesting is that anxiety isn't listed on, in our list of mental factors, at least the chief ones. But it sure is a chief mental factor nowadays. And I'm sure people hundreds of years ago had anxiety, but I think our culture nowadays really makes us more anxious. Yeah. And part of it is we're comparing ourselves to others. And when we compare ourselves to others, we always lose out. We're never quite as good as anybody else. Either that or I'm just totally spectacular. But usually it falls on the end, the edge of, well, how come they get that and I don't? How come they do this and I don't? I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. How can I become as, attractive as them? How can I get the attention that they get? How can blah, blah, blah. All this kind of anxiety. Yeah? For what purpose? Yeah? What do we really want all those things for? Now, all this comparing with others that we do? Yeah? Are we comparing ourselves over things that are important? Yeah? Oh, they're going to get enlightened before me. No, I don't think you have that. But if you do, that's the wrong way of thinking about your spiritual practice. It's not a competition. Yeah, it's not a competition. So this mental chattering anxiety, worrying about stuff that when you really think about it is so silly, so stupid. Isn't it? Yeah? What does it matter, how much hair I have or what color my hair is or whether I wore the same thing, they saw me wearing the same thing before, or, kind of all this stuff. Somebody else is better than me. They favor somebody else. They don't favor me. I should have done that. Then they would have liked me better. I shouldn't have done that. Then they might like me better. It's like, is that really important? Yeah. So here is, personally speaking, where I find just contemplating precious human life and my own mortality very helpful. Just really thinking of, having this human life and the potential I have. And then the fact that it's not going to last forever. And when I die, the only thing that comes with me are my mental habits and my karma. And so when I think like that, then it helps me really set my priorities very clearly and let go of a lot of the worry and anxiety about things that are not my priorities. And even if those things are the priority of my family, I don't need to buy into it. Yeah, even if you've been brought up that having a lot of money is the sign of success and you're anxious about how much money you have, or you've been brought up to think that your job position is what makes you valuable and you're anxious about your job, step back and say, is that really true? Yeah, is that really true? So, let's set our own priorities in a very clean, clear way. And even if, other people look at us and say, you're wearing the same clothes last time I saw you, then you say, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm wearing the same clothes last time you saw me. Yeah, and also the time before you saw me. And for the last 35 and a half years, I've been wearing the same clothes every time you've seen me. Yeah? It's okay. The world hasn't collapsed because of it. I also have the same hairdo. That hasn't changed any. Yeah, hair's grayer, but the dew is the same. Okay? So, there's so many ways just to release your anxiety when you, set your priorities clear. And when your priority is your Dharma practice, and I mean practice, I mean transforming our minds, yeah, then these other kinds of things that often make us quite anxious cease to be so important. Mhm. Yeah. When one thing we often get anxious about is criticism. They're going to criticize me. Nobody said anything, but they're going to criticize me. They're going to criticize me. They're going to criticize me. They're going to get mad at me. Yeah. And to really, if we can reach a place in our own mind where people criticize me, that's okay. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? They criticize me, that's okay. There's freedom of speech, freedom of thought. They can think what they want. They can say what they want. Doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's personally directed towards me. Doesn't mean I need to bite the hook. Yeah. I need to, of course, examine my behavior and take responsibility for what's my responsibility. Yeah, but people criticize. What else is new? Because where are you going to go on this planet where nobody's going to criticize you? Think about it. Where are you going to go? You say, I'll go to the Abbey. Nobody's going to criticize me there. What do you say? Did anybody criticize you, ladies? Anybody criticize you?
Was my mom.
Yeah? Where are we going to go in this whole planet where nobody criticizes us? Impossible. Impossible. So let's just, relax a little bit more about criticism. It's going to happen. If I act with a clean, clear motivation, with honesty and integrity, people criticize. What to do? Yeah. If I'm angry and rude and greedy and they criticize, then I need to clean up my act. But either way, I don't need to get anxious and, bent out of shape because of it. Okay, so if you work with your mind on these kinds of things, then, this anxiety and worry and remorse, get deflated. Okay, a few minutes for questions or comments. You had something?
Yes, I was thinking about the mind, to shut the mind, and I'm wondering, is there any research on meditation abating Alzheimer's or progression of Alzheimer's?
Oh, that would be interesting. I don't know. That's not my specialty. But it would be good to Google it and see what you came up with. Yeah? I would think that the having to train your mind in mindfulness and introspective awareness and, the skills involved in meditation would certainly, act as a preventative measure for dementia or possibly Alzheimer's as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Charlie Rose has a series called Brain Series 1 and Brain Series 2, and it summarizes a lot of the latest research
Oh.
into all of what we're talking about, including the level of meditation.
Mm.
Charlie Rose, he has a fund on PBS, actually, but he has his own website. And just Google, when you get to his website, search Brain Series 1, Brain Series 2.
Yeah.
Well, my work involves being online, so I try to be pretty careful about what I do, but I can't completely disengage until I stop work.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, on my computer, I uninstalled all the games. I really don't, I make a real effort not to click on ads and whatnot, because I realize I waste 30 minutes just looking at an ad that leads me to another ad that leads me to another ad.
Right.
So, I mean, do you have any
Good.
suggestions for, can I do anything else?
It sounds like you're doing quite well. The basic thing is that you're really being quite careful and attentive where you place your attention and what you're paying attention to. So I think that's the basic thing, and really using your discriminative awareness.
In that regard, when I first came here, I started using computers a lot more, and I had trouble kind of getting lost with what you're doing because there's so much there. I started making a list where I started working, and then I would keep looking at the list once in a while and make sure I was staying on track with what I intended to do when I started.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just make one comment on the exercise, and that is that I think those exercises that are going to jump your adrenaline up are not going to do very much for, they're going to cultivate restlessness as opposed to cultivating surrender. And I've found that taking and doing really calming exercises has been huge for allowing you to sit and not feel as much pain as you used to. So like things like mountain biking,
And hockey playing,
I don't do that.
and and football. Yes, these are definitely going to stir up the adrenaline.
But
Yeah.
of course, there are benefits to those exercises in some degree, but the yoga and the walking and hiking, those are hugely beneficial. Aside
Yeah. I think for me, exercise and competitive sports are two different things. Yeah. Competitive sports, your mind gets really wound up, with that.
Would you say a few things about listening music?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, because I don't do it. Yeah, music is really going to set you off too. No, the reason why I don't do it is one of our monastic precepts is to, not watch entertainment, sing, dance, play music, things like this. Because the thing is, the music, first of all, really appeals to your emotions and emotionally can make you go up and down. But also when you sit down to meditate, the tunes are going back and forth in your mind and you might be composing in your mind, or then you associate different events with different music, and so you hear a tune and then your mind goes to that event and then you're off running with that. So, included when I say pay attention to your relationship with the media is also with music. Yeah. Now, I know every time I say this, there's always somebody who says, but I listen to classical music and it really helps me calm down. That's very nice. I'm glad that works for you. But also pay attention if it always makes you calm down, because even classical music, you have the soaring emotion with this and the soaring with that, and, there's a whole lot going on there. Okay. Yeah.
You spoke about that kind of antidotes when we have physical pain, so that it's rooted in restlessness. Are there meditations to do besides these, getting away from hypertension and so on?
Okay, so how to deal with pain in your meditation?
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I always find very interesting is when, first of all, watch the physical sensation, and then watch how your mind is reacting to that physical sensation. And those are two different things. And at the beginning, they seem very much together. You can't separate them. Yeah, but really see what exactly is the sensation and what is my mental reaction to that sensation. And what we usually find is that our mental reaction is what really causes the restlessness. Now, because our mind starts, the physical sensation is just what it is. But then our mind says, if I don't move my leg, I'm going to be permanently handicapped. If I don't stand up and leave this room right now, my back is going to be deformed forever. If I don't shift my position, I am going to be crippled. The mind goes into these extreme things. Yeah. So don't move every time you have some pain. Yeah. Because it's also very interesting when your mind is thinking about your vacation and your holiday and the next meal you're going to eat or your next hit of whatever. Do you feel back pain and hurting knees? No. When you come back to focus on the Buddha, do you feel back pain and hurting knees? Yes. Okay, so is it, what's going on there? What's going on there? We can see that something hurts when we pay attention to it. When we don't pay attention to it, it doesn't hurt so much. Okay? Any parent knows this strategy with a crying baby. What do you do with a crying baby? Yeah, you distract him. You take him into a different environment. And then it's like, oh, I got to readjust here, and the baby stops crying. Whatever was going on before stops. So, we're adults now. I'm not suggesting you get up and take yourself into a new environment, but, you just to realize, oh, this is hurting because I'm looking at it in a certain way. And then also just try and pay attention to the pain. Yeah. First of all, don't label it pain. Label it sensation. Pay attention to the sensation. Try and draw a line a mental line exactly around where it is. See if you can draw a mental line exactly where that is. And see if where that pain is changes from one time to the next. Yeah. Watch that pain. Is it a constant feeling? Is it pulsating? Is it what is it exactly? Is it pain or is it discomfort? What's the difference between the two? Yeah. And then really watch how your mind is reacting to it. And stop the stories of, the permanent tragedy that's going to occur if you don't shift your position. I'm not saying never shift your position. Sometimes you do. But not as often as you think you need to. Because sometimes we're shifting our position and we're not even aware we're doing it. We're just so used to, wiggle time. Yeah? Okay. So let's dedicate now.